I'm Anya Collins in Miss Garrett's 5th grade class, and I'm going to be reading Comes the Wind. Mama licked her pencil and started writing. Dear Clement and Clyde, you boys are so peas in a pod alike. It's beyond me why you always have to outshine each other. My birthday's round the corner, and I'm pining for only one thing. Just once, I'd like to pass the day with you two boys and no squabbling. Honor your mama's wishes and come home to the ranch Monday week. No presents, just you and your brother being nice to each other. Love, Mama. Ever since they were little, Clement and Clyde tried to best each other. When Clement learned to roast a hot dog nice and even over a campfire, Clyde served a 5-course meal, complete with apple pie cooked on a stick. When Clyde figured out how to rope a bucking bronco, Clement managed to ride one bareback. And when Clement decided to raise the biggest pig at the town fair in order to win a blue ribbon, Clyde raised a bigger one and taught it to dance a jig and join in the E-I-E-I-O as he sang Old MacDonald Had a Farm. Mama had hoped it would stop when Clement and Clyde became grown-ups, but things only got worse. On Mama's birthday, Clement drove up in his racehorse, sleek, midnight black pickup truck with patent leather interior. He climbed out, slapping his 10-gallon hat on top of his head, shambled toward the house like a hound dog on its way to the food dip. Clement's dust hadn't settled before Clyde roared up in his longhorned rooster-red pickup truck with a genuine steer-hide interior. He clambered out, putting a 15-gallon hat atop his head, shuffled toward the house like a calf on the end of a branding rope. Happy birthday, Mama, they mumbled, glaring at each other. Thanks for coming, boys, Mama said, hands on hips. Come set a spell on the porch. I'll fetch some nice cold lemonade with extra sugar, she added, looking at them. Clement and Clyde popped their switch-hined, high-heeled, pointy-toed boots up on the rails. Neither of them could think of a single mama-pleasing thing to say. But just then a breeze came up and gave the windmill a gentle turn. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Looks like it comes the wind, said Clement. You call that wind? Grumbled Clyde. Why, one day it was so windy it ripped our clothes plumb off the line, scattering them clear across Lariat County. My Mimi's dainties landed on that Texas Ranger statue in front of the town hall. Now that was a wind. Now Clement didn't want to spoil Mama's birthday, but when he caught sight of that smirk on his brother's face, there was no way he could keep from adding his 2 cents. That's not wind, snapped Clement. Why, one day it was so windy it churned a mess of trout right out of the creek. Plopped them on the grate. I had ready for barbecuing. They blew the other way 5 minutes later and flipped them over. Cooked to perfection. Now that was a wind. Clyde opened his mouth, but just when Mama called from the kitchen. I know it's hard for you boys to get along. I appreciate your trying, indeed. Yes, Mama, they muttered. Clyde clamped his jaw tight and swallowed hard. But the words shot out of him like a cork out of a hot soda ladder. That's not wind. One day it was so windy it stretched the telephone lines down my road all the way to Rattlesnake Hill. Next day when I called my neighbor, the company the phone company charged me for a long distance call. Now that was a wind. Yeah? Well, one day it was so windy Clement barked, it whipped round Moleskin knob and couldn't get straightened out. Got to doing loop-de-loops over the poultry. My prize goose laid the same egg 3 times. When I cracked open, the egg was already scrambled. You call that? That was a win. You call that win? But just before he could say more, Clement stopped him. Now listen here. It's Mama's birthday, and we got to stop this. All right, for Mama. Just nobody say no more about the wind, cried Renton. Mama came out and set the lemonade pitcher and glasses on the porch rail. Having you boys get along makes me as happy as an armadillo with an anthill all her own. I baked a little cake to celebrate. I'll go get it. She patted their heads and opened the door. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Went the windmill. Looks like it comes in, Mama said as she disappeared back into the house. That does it. One day it was so windy, cried Snap, it plucked every last feather off my face. Shamed and so, Mimi had to knit them little woolies to wear till their feathers grew back. Now that was a wind. That's not wind, boomed Comet. One day it was so windy it whooshed through the high school marching band, caught a bell of my boy's tuba, and screwed him 12 feet into the ground. Took a whole football team and the water boy to pull him back out. Now that was a wind. You call that wind? Clyde began. One day it was so. Just then. Just then, the sky turned dusty red. The wind snatched Clyde's word out of his mouth. It yanked the buttons from Clement's shirt. It blew the leaves right off the trees. Clement and Clyde had to grab hold of the porch rail to keep from blowing straight to Kansas. Their eyes grew bigger than hen's eggs when they saw 23 acres of tumbleweed and flocks of chickens whirl by, beaks, wings, feathers, and all. Right on their tails was a 2-hole outhouse, doors flapping like the wings of a dizzy duck. The wind mounted. Clement and Clyde held tight as their feet pried up from the floorboards. Their eyes grew bigger than goose eggs when they saw a whole herd of longhorns, cows, steers, and huge speckled bulls blackening the sky. Those longhorns tumbled end over end, their mouths hung open, bawling, but their bellows had long since blown by. The wind whipped around. Clement and Clyde clung fast to the rail, stretched head to toe like arrows on a weather vane. Their eyes grew bigger than ostrich eggs when they saw Clement's red barn whip past. Horses still in their stalls, kittens still in the loft. Right behind scuttled 20 miles of barbed wire fence and Clyde's hay barley, bawling mile after mile of prickly pears, sagebrush, and mesquite trees. Mama came to the door with the cake. No, Mama, don't, the boy shouted. But it was too late. When she stepped out on the porch, the wind caught her skirt. It billowed out like a ship sail at full mast. Away she shot over Clement's racehorse, sleek pickup, and Clyde's longhorned one. Around the scarecrow, past the garden shed, and over the barn. Suddenly the wind stopped. Mama plummeted out of the sky. Next thing she knew, her skirt had been caught onto the rickety weather vane atop the barn. "Help, boys, get me down," she cried, flapping like a pretty hen. Clement and Clyde sprang into action. Clement wrestled the ladder from the barn. Clyde climbed to the roof and boosted Clement to the roof. Clement pulled Clyde up. Together they scrambled to the peak, and without even stopping to bicker over who should go first, shining up the weather vane, Mama grinned ear to ear, watching her boys work like two mules hitched to the same road. Then Clyde cut Mama loose, and Clement caught her. Gentle as you please, the three of them collapsed onto the roof. "Now that," said Clement, "was a win," said Clyde. The end.